Robert Plank Show, episode 114: The Business of Great Ideas, Real Estate, Charity, and an Eco Friendly Cause with Mayor Dahan. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, the podcast where we talk about making money. Today's guest is Mayor Dahan. Now, Mayor has a vision for a sustainable and environmentally friendly residential market and has continued to make a positive impact in Los Angeles. Dahan has a bunch of cool projects, a bunch of cool companies, this thing called Prime 5 Homes, Dream Builders Project, and Prime 5 Homes was recognized as one of the top 15 fastest growing private businesses in Los Angeles and a recipient of the Best of 2015 in West Hollywood Award. And more recently, Mayor was acknowledged as a 40 under 40 residential builder to watch by Professional Builder Magazine in 2016. So lots of cool subjects to talk about. So Mayor, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on, Robert. It's an honor. I'm
Cool.
excited.
Cool. Well, it's an honor right back at you. So, what is it that you do, and what makes you different and special?
I think that's probably the hardest question to answer for me. What I do is very difficult to be, categorized as one thing or another. Through my experience of growing up in this century with all the difficulties and the new economy and the recessions and whatnot, I've sort of come to the understanding that each person must have many, many hats and must cover many responsibilities. So, what in essence, I'm CEO of my own private development firm where we kind of come up with the most innovative, beautiful, sustainable, eco-friendly luxury homes we can come up with and try to raise the bar as best as possible to try to merge people who, are looking for the finer things in life with the concepts and ideas that are, relatable to taking care of our environment, to giving our children a better, healthier world, to not ruining the gift that we're given, and subsequently, our company has a foundation that I founded 4 years ago, back in 2013, that our premise is a charity for charity. So, we use our profits from our houses to go out in the world, support charities, have children's events, feed the homeless events, back to school, galas for Children's Hospital, and we try to cover the gambit. So, we're trying to help the world economically from a for-profit side, and we're trying to help the world from a non-profit side, which may seem like it's a lot of things that are going on, but in my opinion, that's the most balanced and healthy approach that we can take to secure that we'll have success and purpose in our future.
And I like all of that. And I think that, I mean, the thing that I've kind of been, the pattern I've been seeing with a lot of business owners I've been talking to lately is that, I mean, kind of like you said, you can't just do one thing, especially in this day and age. And then a lot of us kind of have maybe like a scattered attention span. So some of us have multiple businesses. And it seems like the people who have been doing really well are the ones where the businesses they have either kind of interrelate or one relates to the other, right? So this way, like you don't have to switch gears so much. Like you don't see people who maybe they own like a dry cleaning business and a truck driving business, right? It's like in your case where you have your real estate business, but then also the nonprofit. So is that right? Like one kind of connects to the other?
Yeah, absolutely. There was this very, you know, consistent idea that I had many years ago where, I mean, to explain to you in simple terms, everybody has great ideas, but if you have a great idea and you just pull it out of the sky, sometimes that standalone idea might not do so well. And I think if you have a company, there are elevated statuses, there are other parts of the market, whether that be PR, marketing, social media, whether that be the nonprofit element of it. There's so many like turns and bends that a company, if it wants to be successful, it must have other avenues and other things that it does. And if those things work together, that would be the best. But I think it doesn't mean that it's easy, because I think you still have to change gears. And even though the companies interconnect, I think for young entrepreneurs and young leaders out there, we all struggle with First you got to come into certain meetings with a smile and a hug, and then you got to come in with a strong fist and a strong tongue, as they say. It requires like a different hat for every different situation, so it can be very taxing. But ironically, I think you said it. For people whose minds are all over the place, I think we thrive off that sort of chaos, and you can find some of the most success in that kind of versatile setup where you can flow and move where you need to, so your company, your team, and your customers can all grow together.
That makes a lot of sense. So instead of trying to like fight the entrepreneurial spirit or to fight the temptation to be spread kind of thin, instead of doing the opposite of what comes naturally to you, you kind of embrace that a little bit and say, okay, well, no matter what I try or what I do, I'm always going to have like multiple irons in the fire, and so let me just kind of roll with that.
Precisely. Yeah. I think for many years I used to complain like openly about how hard my job was. But then, given the opportunity not to work that hard, I wasn't amused by my own life. So, I think a great entrepreneur loves to be pushed and loves to be like, under the fire. And that's where we can produce the most. That's where we're the most, activated. We're the most aware of our surroundings. Um, it is emotionally very hard though. So it's kind of cool to, to, to realize that you're sort of expecting yourself to go through a little bit of pain and suffering, because that's the process to get to the best solutions, is to kind of go through that process. And maybe it doesn't feel all roses and all great the whole time, but um, from that suffering comes some of the greatest innovations and changes the 21st century has seen.
Oh yeah, I mean, and I agree. So let's unpack that a little bit because I mean I'm looking a little bit at your like your Prime Five homes. So if I heard you right, so this is a kind of a company that you have where you build the homes and. The thing about these homes, like you said, is they're really cool looking. They're like luxury homes. They're modern homes, but they're also, I guess you said they're eco-friendly, and they're also like pretty low price. Is that right?
So the low price part, unfortunately, we haven't been able to build low price houses, primarily because building in LA County, the land can somewhat be over $1 million alone. So the prices of homes can be very costly up here. While where the part is exciting is we are able to build luxury homes even more beautiful than some of the non-eco-friendly ones, and make them sustainable without having it be a hassle, a nuisance, or even visible to the customer. So we can utilize solar power without anybody seeing it. We can use water capture without it visible anywhere to anybody, and it uses a passive system that won't even break down. We use recyclable materials inside and outside of the house that are beautiful and long lasting, but have been recycled to create a lower carbon footprint. And then we utilize everything inside of the house, from lighting to plumbing, to make sure that this house has low waste in water and in power. And all of these amenities are basically given to the customer at no additional cost or fee. And our dream is to create champions of this cause without necessarily having to have them be a champion in the first place. Because once they move in, they see how ahead of the times their home is, and they end up becoming enthralled in it. And we don't when you see our houses, you don't think eco-friendly, but that's the point. The point is to teach people that you can save the environment and be cool at the same time. It doesn't have to negate the other.
And that's awesome. And I mean, I've been to people's houses where they have the whole solar setup, and I mean, I think it looks ugly if if you have some kind of some kind of add-ons where the beauty or the design is not factored into, and they have those ugly like whatever it is the pipes or the things coming down from the solar panel to these huge things tacked on the side. And even in my own neighborhood, there were a couple of homes where they advertised them based on how eco-friendly they were. And I went in and walked through in like an open house kind of thing, and they had these weird, like, octagon shaped rooms, and in some rooms the ceilings were high and some were low. And I'm thinking, well, of course it's eco-friendly because the air moves around super weird. So I mean, I kind of see what you're saying, how a lot of these homes, I'm kind of, I'm curious because I go and check them out. It's like, oh, cool, eco-friendly. Like maybe the electricity bill will be super low, or it's good for the environment. So I kind of have a better conscience there. But then the house just looks weird, but not in a good way, not in like the cool, like modern art kind of creative way. So I like how you mentioned that, and I like how that's an important kind of factor for you, where not only is it eco-friendly, but it's also, like you said, like a thing that it's kind of passive. You don't necessarily notice it.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of history behind this movement, and I think in people's hearts and minds when they hear or see eco-friendly, I think they think something completely inappropriate. They think like a house made of straw or mud, solar panels everywhere, like compost and all these other things. And while those things are beautiful and they're very healthy, um, we're trying to create a new like concept in people's mind where being good to the environment is cool and it's impressive, and it's your duty, not just a bonus, but that it doesn't have to. The main thing people are worried about is they think that an eco-friendly, sustainable future means less for them. And it doesn't. It doesn't mean less of anything. It just means more consideration not to be wasteful of the sunlight that's free that comes down, not to waste more water than you have to, not to have huge landscapings that need to be watered daily. Very intellectual thought processes that at the end, make these homes like better so they'll last 100 years and the environment can deal with it, but also kind of create a new idea in people's minds where no longer is eco-friendly, this like, as not in a bad way, but I think it's been related to the hippie movement a lot, and it's been related to this like free love and this free way of thinking. And it's not. It's an economical and a realistic thing. If you're a human being and you care about your world, you would do it out of an intellectual realist side. You would understand that the air you breathe in, the water you drink must be protected for your own well-being. So it should be the world's movement to make sure that as we grow, as we expand and build more cities, that we do it intellectually so we can have something to hand off in the future, instead of just consuming everything and not trying to think about what's going to come next.
And I like that, and it reminds me a lot of when, like the Priuses first came out, right? And when like
Hmm.
those first couple years, like early 2000s, if someone had a Prius or you saw a Prius, you think, man, what a nerd. But then now, like if you have a hybrid, like that's a cool car. Or like Tesla is like, well, look, this is like an all electric car. This is like a cool, like a race car almost. So it's like so what you're saying is that up until now there's been like the same kind of stigma, but with homes instead of cars, right? There's all this negative stuff associated, so it's your mission to rebrand the eco-friendly into all these positive things.
Exactly. I mean, I think you gave the perfect example with the Tesla, because it's a rebranding of a concept to make it cool, to make it like the future. The same movement. I'm just one small builder, and even though I feel like you know, in many circles, I'm the leader of this movement because I'm the one who cares the most and is willing to put the most up and talk about it the most. If the world doesn't get behind this, it's just going to hurt us. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Because we can already see the effects of what we do to our planet. And I never was an environmentalist. It was only when I started to build homes that I see the real power that I had in my hands. you know the first example I love to give is when we demolish homes, we just demolish them and we throw them into a bin or bins, and then we ship them to a dump. And if we were more intelligent, we would take the homes apart piece by piece and recycle everything, which is what we've been doing for in excess of 6 years. Um, it takes more time. It costs a little bit of more money, but it's the way to give us an opportunity to grow and expand and do it in a healthy way instead of in a way that might scare us and might not leave any natural resources for us to enjoy anymore. Uh, yeah, this is I think there's so many people out there who want to do it for the right reasons and they just need their voice heard, and we're excited to make a company that's out there doing houses in a big neighborhood that are eco-friendly, making it our standard. We've just started building in Venice too and bringing our concepts there. And in Venice, California, there's a huge eco-friendly movement, and you can see the benefits it has to the environment and to the people. And we're just excited to see this grow nationwide and see everybody sort of engulf and envelop their lives in a more like sustainable way, in a more conscious way.
So how did you come up with like the like this technology or the design of these homes or like these some of these processes you have? Like, is this all you? Like, did you learn this and architect this yourself, or did you hire a team? Like, how did that happen?
Um, you know, the way I always look at it is I'm no genius. I'm not reinventing the wheel. We live in a world where, in my opinion, where there are amazing ideas everywhere, and then there are people doing things everywhere. And the connection between those amazing ideas and what we actually do is what's lacking. People have known you know, how to recycle a home since, since the 1900s. We've had solar power available for, in excess of 50 years. The technology's been out there. My part was to figure out a way and create an idea of why it must be a standard. Even though you don't always make money on being eco-friendly, um, I created a brand around that being the standard. So it's not about making money. It's not about being more profitable, which is taboo in our society, but it's not. While making a profit is important and we have to pay our bills and people need money, um, we should be able to accomplish those goals while being intellectual about what we build and while being thoughtful and loving about how we build it. Um, so I feel like I wasn't really, or I shall not take credit for coming up with almost anything. I just like to take credit for seeing all the genius ideas that were out there and having the confidence to implement them when other people um, were just hesitating because they were possibly scared of change. I'm a bit more reckless. I just I never felt like I knew what I was doing anyway, so I always had to take chances. So I was just happy to be able to be behind a company that believed in my ideals, and I was very lucky that as we progressed this brand, our houses were breaking records. They were selling for more than all the other homes. We were selling faster than any other developer in the nation. Most of our homes never even reached the market in the first place. So we were doing something very powerful, and we basically feel like we have a huge head start because we've been putting these homes together for about 10 years or so. And as of right now, there is little, if any, competition in the market, meaning that there are very few developers developing high-end eco-friendly homes, if any.
So,
So
so there's a lot of cool stuff in there. I mean, one thing that you kind of mentioned as far as like, building on the things that have already been invented. There's some kind of quote. I can't remember it exactly. But I think it might be like a Ben Franklin thing. That's like creativity is where you connect things that are seemingly unconnected. So, I mean, so like you said, like we've known how to recycle a home. We've known about solar power. It gets a little bit better every few years. But you just kind of combine these things together. And the second thing that I really liked about like your business model and the things you're doing is that you're really niched down. And there's a lot. I mean, who knows even how many like home building companies out there. And what do? They just say, okay, well, here's a neighborhood, get some lands, put things together, build some homes on some land. Well, who cares? Like you can go to like any neighborhood and just go and move into a place where all your neighbors have the exact same setup as you. Sounds kind of boring, but so what you've done is you've combined not just the eco-friendly and the good design of it, but also kind of made it into a nice neighborhood and made it where it combines everything, right? Like how can you be against a good-looking home? How can you be against helping the environment?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate that. I completely agree. Um, it always cracks me up when I think back, because everything that should have been done has always been out there and available. And I think, I realized very early on, before I was ever a business leader, that there were no visionaries left in my industry, and that there were lots of people, but very few people with passion or willing to put forth, a dream or take a chance. There's a lot of regurgitation of other people's blueprints, and a lot of copycatting, a lot of people just trying to do the simplest thing and just get money and get out. And that's always baffled me. If you have the power and the responsibility to build homes, which are extremely important, why not? If you're gonna do it anyways, why not just put the extra effort in and do it the right way? Why not, leave a resounding message of your legacy of what you've accomplished? And why not try to aspire to make money and do good at the same time? It seems very obvious. It seems very easy. It's the part that cracks me up why I don't, I've always invited people to copy my system, to copy my business method. But I think people still don't realize that the future of human evolution is one where humans understand that it's about sacrifice. It's about more than just your days on this earth, and then the things that you do on those days. It's about whatever legacy and impact you leave, and that your name will live way beyond you if you can learn how to give a bit of yourself to others. um, and I feel like we're lacking that in the business world. So if I can go out there and I can talk like this and I can make money at the same time and be successful, then the young ones, which, we get interns from all over the world come to work for us and learn from us. I think the young ones will learn from this sort of system, and hopefully, we'll have a lot of young philanthropic developers out there building beautiful homes because it's the right thing to do.
I think that's a pretty powerful message. And so, as we're winding down today's call, I want to make sure that we kind of bring it back full circle around to the marketing. And so, I mean, I really like how a lot of your message kind of revolves around, well, the almost not even the easy way, but like the lazy way, or like the non-thinker's way out, is to just be looking to copy and repeat and be greedy and just think about the money. But you kind of linked what it is that you do, not just with your passion, but kind of connected it to a really cool social cause. So for all those kind of like you said, like the younger or the newer up and coming business owners out there, out of all the things that you see, the mistakes they're making, or all the things that they could be doing but not, what do you see as the number one mistake all these up and comers are making?
um, I think I'm very lucky through my company. I get to interview and meet hundreds and thousands of young interns and college graduates yearly. Um, it seems as though the younger, more like startup generation is possibly lacking that sort of self criticism and self deprecation or whatnot that it takes to kind of to get to the finish line.
So you're saying they're overconfident and they should be more like looking into oneself, I guess.
Exactly. I think as you navigate through the world and as you start a company, there's so many things you have to do. And pretty much the only thing that you can do that will assure you continued success is to continue look in the mirror, look at your weaknesses, look at the weak links in who you are as a human being, and then address those. Because, you know, regardless of your intelligence or your experience, this is a world where it's about human to human connection. It's about what you make people feel when you talk to them and when you talk about what you're doing. And so if we're going to become successful, we're going to have to become very, emotionally connected human beings. And I think for most entrepreneurs and most young leaders, that's very hard to be critical and put yourself down and try to grow and stay on top of yourself. But if you're ever going to become if you're ever going to become a big person in this world, it requires being your biggest critic first.
And that's one of those things where, I mean, it's so dang simple, but so few people do it. And out of all the steps it sounds like you've taken in your journey, and of all the cool tidbits of advice you shared throughout this call, it seems like that's what I'm hearing over and over. Like, there's all these simple things, and yet. A lot of people they're just not taking action on doing just these simple steps, or just combining these simple steps, or just doing the right thing, I guess.
Yep, agreed.
So cool. So, I mean, before I let you go, I want to make sure that everyone knows about you and goes to your website and checks out these homes and just gets all the information that they need to know about Mayor Dahan. So, where can they go on the internet to find out more about you?
All right. There's actually a lot of different avenues. We have our main company is called Dahan Properties, which is sort of the marketing and brains behind everything we do. So you can go to DAHAN properties.com, and then you can also visit Prime 5 FIVE spelled out homes.com, where you can check out our homes, our styles, architecture, all the interiors and exteriors. And if you want to get involved with our nonprofit, the Dream Builders Project, visit our website, www.dbpla.com or thedreambuildersproject.com. We're also on Facebook, on Instagram, so feel free to reach out to us, and we love to communicate with anybody.
Awesome. Lots of cool companies, lots of great ideas, lots of cool causes, and I really appreciate all the wisdom you had to share with us. So, thanks for being on the show, Meyer.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good day. Appreciate you having me on.
You too.